Welcome to my video of how I make my custom anime box sets. I'm going to be showing off a couple different box sets throughout the making of this, but hopefully this will give you a pretty thorough tutorial about how I make these so you can make them yourselves. This isn't a super duper hard thing to do, and it's not super expensive either, thankfully. So what you need to actually construct your box is, of course, some cardstock or chipboard or whatever you want to use, poster board, whatever it's called where you are. You'll also need some shipping tape, whatever kind you like to use. You also need, of course, a ruler, so just a normal ruler, and a pen, scissors, and the discs that you are wanting to make the box for. This will just help with your measurements, and this is actually constructing the box itself. So first, what I do is I line the front up with this corner, so you know that you're flush with the front of the box. This will be the opening, and this will be the bottom or the top, whichever you prefer. And then I can mark with my pen where this sits here, and height wise, it's okay if you leave a little bit, like a millimeter of space between your discs and your line, because that will allow for, when it's constructed, to be able to get the discs in and out easily, or to fold the actual pieces together. So you can see here some of these marks that I put on here and here and here. So basically, take your ruler and connect these lines, make sure they're straight. And what's good is if you can measure here and here. So that says 13.8 centimeters. And check this one, 13.8 centimeters as well. So that's good. You know that this is a straight line. And then this is 17.5 centimeters, which is pretty accurate, standard for Blu-ray cases. And so with this, you can actually just make another spot here, halfway across. You can try and keep this straight and make another thing. You can also, as I said, this is going to be 13.8, 13.7, 13.8. So you can just make, basically you just make two of these the same size. It's always good to double check your measurements, because you can measure as many times as you want, but what really matters is once you cut it, you can't, recut it. And if it's too big, then you can make it smaller. But if it's not big enough, then you have a problem. So next we're going to measure the width of this here, and that's going to be our spine. And then finally you have to measure this here. It's going to be the same width as the 5.3, but this side is going to be shorter, and so we need to do 2 of these to cover obviously the top and bottom. So basically it's this measurement here, but with this width. So we've got one, and then we're going to make another one of this just up here, and ignore these lines because you can actually even scribble this one out. So here we have top and bottom, spine, and then front and back. So basically, easy peasy. Just get your scissors and start cutting out, following these lines, and try to get them as straight as you can with these lines when you're cutting. Construct our box, and basically this is where the tape comes in. So there's all different ways you can do this. I find this the simplest, cheapest, easiest. So basically you should do is line up your sides so that you know how you're going to be constructing this box. And put tape on the joins. And next, you want to attach the top and bottom. So you can actually do this either side or just one side if you want. Doesn't really matter. So, as you can see, there's my box without any artwork. And you want to kind of make sure that you can get this in and out fairly easily. There's a little bit of give. And I'm sure people with better tools, more time, and you can really dedicate yourself to it. There's an even better way of doing this, I'm sure, but this is pretty easy, pretty simple. Uses things you can get from your local stationery supply store or office supply store. And yeah, so I am going to then now show you how I design my covers, or what I use for the actual artwork on this box. I just got 2 separate images. I made the spine, and these are all just made out of rectangles, obviously. And then I also, for the logo, just look up the series title logo and then PNG, so it gives you the actual logo. I don't use anything fancy. As you can see, it's LibreOffice up here because I have Linux on my laptop and I just find it easier to use. And then you export this as a PDF. And then what I do is I take it, so you can see here it's an A3 paper landscape, so it's all printed on one page. This method, obviously, if you have an A3 printer, that's fine. I take it to Officeworks, which is basically, you know, a office supply store. They do printing and stuff as well. And so I'm going to do that tomorrow and I'll show you then. So for making the actual box, we have the box we're going to be covering. This is one that I'm reusing. We also have the printed artwork that I got from my local stationery supply store or office supply store. As you can see, I'm going to be making a box for Nabari no O, and this is printed on A3 paper, which is the double size of normal A4 sheet. So it keeps it all in one page like this. Now when you do print, make sure that your printing is set to actual size or true size, not to fit, because that will screw up the actual size of this, so it won't match your measurements. Then you also need some fold back clips. We call them bull clips here in Australia. And you'll also need some paper towels like this, so you'll fold it up and you'll use it in there. You need a couple scissors. You can only have one set of scissors, but I find if you have a large pair and a small pair, it makes it a little bit easier. A ruler is crucial for when we start covering it with our next thing that I'm showing off, so just to make sure you have that. And of course, self-adhesive sticky book covering paper, the stuff that you put on your school books and things like that. So those are all of the items that we'll need. So first of all, I'm going to fold along these lines. Hopefully with everything being printed correctly, they will be straight. I'm going to use my ruler for this, just as to help get me a straight line, straight folding line. And it's really easy for this one because there is such a large difference. And you just press it gently either side, make a little bit of a crease. If you want to be really careful about it, make sure the top and bottom line up here. So it's not going to be folded at an angle either. Then you can take something and just flatten it like that. So you see we have nice crisp holes there. I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. If you don't have a color difference, like you're using one continuous piece of artwork, for example, you can make lines up here in your printout for where the spine is meant to be. Here you can see that will fit the spine very nicely of my box, and then you can just line up where the top and bottom are, and you'll see how much overhang of artwork you may have. So first you trim the long sides here and here, so it'll be easier to work with. Now here, I'm going to cut along with these folded lines. want the top to be. And here we can figure out how much of our spine, how much of our artwork. See how this artwork is a little bit longer than the actual bottom of the box? That's a good thing. That's what I want. So this up here has a clean fold, and then this down here I can cut into just a little bit more and get a better fit. Trim this and cut triangles here. So cut these at an angle. Now at this point you may want to use some glue on these tabs here to attach it to the top of your box so it's not moving around. With this method you shouldn't actually be gluing a lot, just because I find that it can warp. Depending on the glue you use, it can warp the paper underneath and ruin the image, or just warp the paper full stop and then ruin the image. So now we have two sides of artwork, and you can see there's overhang on both sides. That's what we want. Looks good. Here you can see how much there's artwork on somewhat on the top, but definitely on the bottom. And again, this is good. This is what we want. So first we can cut a triangle to where the corner is. It's okay to cut things a little bit at a time, because you'd rather cut not enough and cut more than too much and then have to start all over again, or just wreck it, ruin it for yourself. So now I'm going to fold this like so around the lip, and then that's where these come in. So first you can put it around here and secure it. So here you can see how I've left these long. That's because they're going to wrap around this top bit and wrap around this bottom, but you don't want it much of or any of this lip exposed if you can help it. And you have to figure out which side you want to be folded over the other. So this one will be the bottom part. Then I use my scissor and just trim it inside that crease, because you don't want it as long as this spine part. And then you do the same with the other side, pretty much. Now when you're working with this still, you can see I can actually trim this at an angle here. There, but first I'm going to trim this end here as well. So just really, really shallow little angles here. So now this is going to be the front of my box. This is going to be the back. And you can see everything's lined up pretty well. And now we're going to start putting the adhesive on here. So first what you can do is put in the discs that you are going to have in this box. It just stabilizes it a little bit, stops it from moving too much. So here are my discs. This is the Australian release of this show. And the adhesive is what's going to stick this all together. So, and usually this is wide enough to cover your whole thing. So just measure approximately how long you need to cut it. So for this one, it will be, and because it has the grid inside, it's fairly easy to keep cutting straight as well. So you take what you just cut and you'll find a corner. Now peel back a little bit, probably about that much, and then I want you to fold it like this. So this is how you apply this without leaving wrinkles or bubbles, so just fold it carefully. Try and line up this with this, especially if you know that this is straight. So just stick that as parallel as you can get it on there and press down. So then go on this side, and you can see it's not quite flat. There are some wrinkles and air bubbles. That's when you take your ruler and you just press on it lightly and you remove all of those air bubbles out of there. Or you can even just use your fingers if there's any particularly bad ones. And so now you grab onto this paper, you have your ruler, and you pull and push at the same time. And just check as you go that there's no wrinkles. See, here's some bubbles. as you're going. And then, so you snip here with your scissors. If you're really interested, you can cut the triangles in. And I'm just doing the spine right now, top and bottom. And then what I do is I take the discs out and I fold this over here. And if your contact paper doesn't go farther past your paper like this, you can actually use spare contact that you've cut off of before, or if you're doing multiple boxes, there's always going to be stuff you trim off. So you just take a strip of that, stick it to here, and stick it down. And you can make a full one if you want as well, like the whole length. Flat, no bubbles. Just make sure to check these creases, corners, and then we're going to trim here and here again, and then we're going to fold this bit over. So beautiful. Bottom spine, bottom of the box is a little bit nicer, but what is most important is, of course, and your spine, and thus we have complete box set of Nabarno